Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the Triple Studios channel. Today we're going to be making a health bar in Scratch. Now the first thing what we want to do is just go over to the variables tab. You can either rename the variable. I'm just going to delete it because you just make a fresh variable off the start. So I'm going to call this one health. And once you've made the health variable, we're going to go to events, one green flag clicked. Go back to the variables and go set health to, and then this can be anything. This could be like the max health, so I'm just going to go 100. Alright, sorry, my bad. I forgot to make a max health variable. Just max health, there we go. And then we want to set max health to 100, and then we want to set the health variable to the max health variable, because that way it just sets it to the maximum health without you having to type in this number multiple times. Now, simply because of simplicity, I'm going to go over to the health variable here. I'm just going to swap them around like this. There we go. And then I'm going to right click on the health, not the max health, but the normal health variable. I'm going to right click and I'm going to click the slider. And I'm going to right click again. I'm going to change the slider range. Now, because my health variable is in between 0 and 100, I can leave mine as default. But whatever your maximum health value is, you want to set that to this maximum value here on the slider. So let's say if you have 500 max health, you want to right click on health, change slider range, and change this 100 to a 500. Now we're going to move on to drawing our sprites. So you can rename this sprite here. I've just renamed it cat. You don't have to if you don't want to. And we're going to go down to choose a sprite. Now we're going to go paint, and first thing we're going to do is click convert to bitmap here. Click on this, and we want to zoom in quite a bit. I'd say, yeah, about there. And then we want to select the rectangle tool here, and make sure you've selected the filled outline or the filled option. And you want to set the brightness of the color all the way down to 0. So it would be a plain black box. Then you want to align your mouse cursor with this little center dot here. And then we want to count 6 blocks right. So we want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it should be here in between 2 dark grey dots. Then we want to count 1 down. So 1. And now we should kind of be in like a diagonal pattern here. So I'm just going to drag right on the corner, and I'm going to drag all the way to about halfway here. Now we need to count another 6, but on the opposite side. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's just try and get this perfectly in the top left corner. Like that. There we go. Beautiful. Now, what we need to do is, you can kind of use like a reference. So I'm going to click the paintbrush tool here. I'm just going to go a nice red color, and I'm going to set down the brush to size 2 to get a nice pixel. And I'm going to click on it, and as you can see there, it's very nice. And then I'm going to just draw a box all the way in the center, but always keeping a 2 pixel gap to the bottom at all times. And then we can fill it in. Now I've got this, you can now delete this reference dot here, so you can just go to rubber, select size 2, delete, and it's gone. Now, once we have drawn our sprite, we can move on to coding the health bar, or the first part of it. So, as you can see here, this health bar is kind of small in comparison to our player sprite. So what we want to do is go over to events and grab a when green flag clicked block. Then we can go down to looks, and we can go to front layer, so it will always be in front of our cat sprite, and then we can go set size to, and this can be anything you want. So I think I'm going to do about 400 maybe. That might be a bit too big. Maybe 200. 250 I reckon would be a good number. There we go. It's kind of like off center. So in order to fix that, we need to go to Control, grab a forever block, motion, go to, and then click the cat sprite here, and then we want to change Y by 70. Actually, we can't drag it. I mean, to fix that, all we have to do is go. I believe it'd be set mode travels, full screen, and as you can see here, it now moves with our sprite. I'm now going to rename our sprite to health bar 1, and I'm going to go to costume, and I'm going to set this costume to. I can't just leave it costume 1. It does not really matter. However, if you really wanted to, change the name to make it easier for yourself, I guess you could call it like base bar there. Base bar. We also need to set the costume to base bar. I almost forgot. Make sure you set the costume to base bar, because that would be the full health whenever the game starts. Now, to make it so the health bar, actually kind of looks like a health bar, because currently right now it says we're like at 50% of health. That's not what we need. What we need is more of a health bar. So, not obviously. So let's go to the select tool here and select this black bit here. Get this to as center as you can, and then you can now hit the delete key or the delete button up here. I'm just going to click the delete key. There we go. And we also need to do the same on the left side. So remove this black border here, and as you can see, now we have this. I would quickly undo all of that and right click and duplicate on the sprite, because we need to make sure we're using the second sprite when doing this. So then just do the same process again. Delete that black edge and then delete this black edge. There we go. Alright, once we have made the second sprite, what we need to do now is make the third sprite. So once again, you just want to right click on the second sprite and click duplicate. Now, what we need to do is move this sprite to the left the same amount as one sprite or one costume. So what we want to do is grab your pen and let's draw a marker again. There we go, there is our marker. We want to select this costume and you want to hold down shift. And shift will lock it onto the y-axis, so you're unable to move it left or right. I mean, obviously you can, but it will lock it on. And you just want to line it up to the other side. So let's just zoom in to get the best angle. I think that's good. Yep, that's good. Alright, once you have made the sprites and you can flick through them and they look, pretty much perfect, you can actually rename the third sprite. I'm just going to rename it to full, and we can actually rename the second costume to empty. And we can actually just, grab the black tool, set the brightness, the fill tool rather, grab a black color and just fill in the red, because this is our empty sprite. Alright, so once we have finished naming and designing our sprites, we can go back over to the coding section. Now we can start to make the health bar kind of actually look like a health bar. So if I just click the green flag here Kind of looks like a health bar. So to fix this, we need to use the clone blocks. If you don't know what clone blocks are, well, they're kind of in the name. It clones the sprite and allows you to control it like a completely new sprite, but it's just realistically just a clone of one sprite. Obviously, to create a clone, you go over to the control section here, control tab, scroll down until you see create clone of myself. Drag that in and also drag in when I start as clone. Now you want to put this create clone of myself underneath all of this look, but above the forever tab here, forever loop rather. And then underneath the clone, we want to switch the costume. You want to switch it to the full costume. This is because the clone is always one layer behind the original sprite. So the original sprite is always on top or in front. So what we can do now is just right click on this forever block here and just click duplicate. You can put this on start as clone. Now what we want to do, I'm just going to clean up the blocks. Actually I'm going to move that there. But now, if we click play here, as you can see, it kind of appears on the left hand side here, which is not what we want, and it looks kind of goofy. It's on the wrong side. But this is, an easy fix. So what we want to do is go over to the variables tab here, make a variable, and I'm just going to do this sprite width. Make sure this is for the sprite only, and it's not a cloud variable. Just hit OK. We can untick it to hide it, and we want to grab a set. It says health. I'm going to change that to sprite width, and then we want to go to change X by width. The width is currently set to 0, which doesn't really make much sense. To get the width, it requires a little bit of maths. This maths is quite simple, so don't worry if you're not very good at maths, neither am I. I'm going to go over to the costumes tab, and as you can see, the base bar here, it says 48 by 8. That is the resolution of the sprite, or the costume. Now to get the width of the costume or the sprite, it reads as follows. It's always X by Y. So the width would be 48. But that is the entire bar, including the black outlines. Now because we used the brush tool of 2 pixels, we would remove 2 pixels from this. So instead of 48, it would actually be 46. So we just need to go type in 46. However, that is not it. We did increase the size of the sprite by 250%. So to get this, what we need is to go to operators, more maths. We're going to grab a times by and a divided by. Now in the first block here, you just want to type in 46, or however long your costume is. It should be 46 because obviously we counted 6 across on both sides, and you just want to drag the divide block into the times block. And then we want to go over to looks, scroll down to find size, drag size in there, and now we want to divide it by 100. So obviously size, we times it by 250, divide that by 100, it gives us 2.5. Drag that back in there and plop that in there. Now if we click play, as you can see, it's kind of glitchy there. That's because if we full screen, it looks perfectly fine. So now we have a health bar here, which is working perfectly fine. However, current doesn't move when our health, it doesn't scale with our health. To do this, what we need to do is head over to the variables tab, make a new variable, and I'm going to call this health percentage. and we just want to click for this sprite only. Click OK, and I'm going to hide it. Now, what we want to do is go over to set health, and we can actually change this. Yeah, just above the sprite width, we can go to health percentage, and we can actually go to. Where is it? It would be go to operators, grab the dividing tab, put it in there. Go to variables tab once again and grab the health. Make sure the health is in first, then put in the max health. So now if we show the percentage, as you can see, it scales with the health going down. So at 0 health, the percentage is 0. At max health, it is 1. Obviously, it scales. It should be the exact same. So if I go random now, when the health is 58, the percentage is 58%. Or, yeah, 58%. However, the bar still does currently not scale. But this is quite simple. All we need to do is grab a multiply. Yeah, I believe it's a multiply. Then we can put sprite width in the first one and health percentage in the second one. Pop that in, and yep. And as you can see, we've already encountered our first issue. When the health bar drops below 50%, it goes, just carries on going until it gets around there. That is not what we want. To fix this, what we need is a if then else block. So go to control, if then else, operators. We need a less than. Pop that in there. Head back to the variables tab. Grab a health percentage. Pop that in, and we need to change this to halfway. So for us, it would be 0.5 because that is 50%. And then we want to go to the looks tab, and we want to go to switch costume, and we want to grab 2 of these and pop them in here. Obviously, we're not going to have them both on full. The bottom one would be on full, but the top one would be on empty. So once we've got this block here, we can now drag this into the main code. You would put this just underneath the health percentage. So as you can see here, it now flows. Lovely stuff. Ignore this little texture glitch here. If I go into full screen, as you can see, it's not there anymore. And as you can see, we've got a working health bar. Lovely. However, it's currently staying in one color throughout the entire time. Now that could be an actual feature of, the health bar. You could have it just one color all the time. However, what if we were to have it in a separate color, like goes from green and it flows all the way down to red, starts from green, goes to red. What we want to do is it's quite easy, go to the looks tab, go to set color and drag this underneath the it could be underneath the percentage, doesn't really matter, it could be above the percentage. I'm going to do it so it's just underneath the if statement here. Come on, there we go. So mine will look like this, and then we want to go to a operators, grab a times by, plop that in, go to variables, grab a percentage, drag that in, and then we need to get a variable. No, we don't. We need to go into the thing. Be 50%, wouldn't it? Now let's try it. Oh, it's currently only doing it for 1. So I think if we duplicate this, we can, if we put it in both of these, so get the set color to health percentage times by 50, and you can just plop that in the clone script here. Now if we maximize the game, we can scroll. Kind of a little bit of an issue. An easy fix for this would be to create our own kind of block that tells, it's like a kind of like a shortcut. So it's a block that tells it to do multiple things. Like we could have one block instead of all of this. To do this, we're going to head over to the My Blocks tab. Now this is a tab I don't really use that often, which I probably should, because it is very, very helpful, especially in situations like these. So we're just going to make a block. We could just call this, don't know, we could just call it bar positioning. There we go, and we can just click OK, because we do not need the number input. We do not need we don't need a number or text input. We don't need a Boolean input, and we don't need another label because we've already got one. Well, before we click OK, we want to click Run Without Screen Refresh. This will just make it smoother, so it won't lag as much. Now you can hit OK. Now you should get this thing where it's asking you to define bar positioning. Don't worry about this. This is completely fine. In order to, define the bar positioning, what we will need to do is just disconnect all of this nonsense here, and we want to disconnect this, and we want to drag these 3 blocks, so the go to player or go to cat, and I've got these 3 blocks here, so we want the go to cat or the player sprite, whatever it may be. Change the Y by whatever number you chose, and the health percentage script. I'm going to drag those underneath here. And now that we've got this, we can actually drag these back onto here, and this clone script here, basically the same as this. Get this out of here. Bar positioning, bang, and bar positioning, bang, boom. I'm going to clean the blocks up, except for that one. I'm not going to clean that up. Do that, and then bang. And now I believe if we play, nope, it's still not working. Now I believe before we click play, I mean we've already clicked play, but before we do anything else, what we need to do is grab this set color effect and drag that onto here. And drag that back there. This is because this will tell both of them to be the right color. There we go, please. Oh, there we go. Look at that. So smooth, so clean. Lovely. You can actually hide this when let me do it in here, but we don't actually need the percentage. It just takes up more of the screen. Boom. As you can see, lovely jubbly. We can actually move the sprite around. It's looking good, looking clean. It is a very nice health bar system. So if you guys did enjoy, please do leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.